Hi, welcome back to VME Vaginismus, Let's Name It Not Shame It. My name is Audrey Cairo, and I again hope to leave you empowered and inspired by sharing someone else their vaginismus journey with you. So yes, I really can't believe that we're already at episode 6, because originally I thought to just record 6 conversations or so, but I don't think that we're there yet. I think that we can just keep going, and as long as it's bringing something to you, we'll just see what we can do, really. But yes, enough about me, because today I'm speaking to the amazing Millie. And I know I say amazing a lot, and I don't know, you have to beat it out of me. But I also met Millie in one of my workshops, and I can only be grateful and call her amazing because she didn't hesitate to sit down with me for this conversation. In this episode, Millie shares her vaginismus journey with me and how her body had kind of been protecting her along the way from pains likely that she experienced, but also her mindset around it. And we discuss body image and self-care and so much more. So please do have a listen and enjoy and let me know what you think. Good morning, Millie.
Morning.
Morning on a Saturday, really drowsy. I don't know how it is where you are, but it's a bit
quite miserable.
Yeah, very miserable Saturday morning. It's so great to have you. So lovely to have you this morning.
Thanks for having me.
We were already, of course, having a bit of a chat before I pressed record itself. But yeah, like I'm just, I say it all the time. I am just so excited to do this every time. And I can't just wait to have just an hour with you or so, just to talk and see where we go. As I mentioned, my preparation is sometimes a bit poop, but then I'm like, it's not about preparation. It's about Millie and about Millie's story here, you know? But yeah, how have you been? How have you been keeping this random COVID time?
I've been doing okay. Been working from home, so keeping safe. And I mean, I just like being at home, really, if I'm honest. So I got an excuse not to get out my pajamas ever again. So it's working out quite well for me.
Like, well, let's see how that goes when it turns summer. Then then things might change again for you. But as you know, like, welcome to the VME podcast. I am like, I feel I'm really lucky that I've had like you and the other girls who were like so willing to say, hey, great, it would be great to talk to you or to have a conversation with you. So as you know, with the podcast, we hope to just give people different stories, different people, different perspectives, and just to see, like, it doesn't matter if it's one story or if there's 100, but it's more of the more the better, in my opinion, especially if we're by ourselves most of the time when we think about vaginismus, and it's sometimes nice to hear someone else speak. So as you know, maybe as you heard in the other podcast, is that I sometimes have like the starter question and I've got an ending question, and everything in the middle might just be a bit of a, might be all sorts. But I thought to change it up today, and
Okay.
I thought to start with you and have the question as, if your vagina was that one friend that you couldn't get rid of, how would you describe her? Or how would you describe her and your relationship with her?
I think she'd be very chatty, which works out quite well because I am too. And I think she'd probably be a bit of a warrior, need constant reassurance if she's my friend. And I think she, well, obviously, if thinking in terms of vaginismus, she'd probably be one of those friends that was a bit protective over you as well, which obviously trying to do what's best, but maybe sometimes not always thinking it through. So.
And how would you describe your relationship with her?
I would say be a bit of a love-hate. So,
Yeah.
I think she'd be one of those friends that you just like you get along with. They're all good, and then sometimes you're like, oh, why are you like this? So,
Mm. Yeah. So love, like if it would be the relationship is like a love-hate relationship with a chatty worrier who needs reassuring and who could be protective over you
yeah,
at random times, at
yeah,
times.
one of those friends you fall out with all the time, but then you always still are friends with them. So,
Yeah. Yeah, because you can't get rid of her,
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So because like the love-hate relationship, I think then just as a bit of a starter point, would be great to hear both the love and the hate in a way, and just to hear more about you, as you know, in general. But yeah, like if we think of because vaginismus itself, like when did you first find out about vaginismus?
I think probably like most people, Google. Um, I'd been having some issues related to like UTIs, and I wasn't really sure what was causing them. And I remember just Googling lots of things, and I literally came across vaginismus on Google, and I was like, oh, that sounds awful. I'm glad I don't have that. And
Mm,
fast forward a couple of years later, I was, I was told you have vaginismus, and I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I've Googled that. So
yeah.
that's kind of how I came about to find it. I was reading up lots of things. I'm a chronic Googler when I'm not feeling well, I'm just like, oh, I'll Google it, and then I end up scaring myself. So it's a habit I really need to get out of
Get
doing.
rid of, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's how I came across it. And then obviously a few years later, when I was told I had vaginismus, I was actually did me all right because I was a bit better informed than I probably would have been.
Mm.
So yeah, that's how I found out really.
Yeah. But when you first Googled it and you're like, oh, that sounds horrible. I'm happy that's not me. Like at that time, was it actually not, that was actually maybe a time that you didn't have vaginismus, or what do you think?
I think I read it as, penetration is impossible. And
Ah, okay.
because I could have penetration, even though it was painful and quite tight, I was just like, oh, well, I can do that. So obviously I don't have this. I didn't kind of realize that it was a bit of a scale and, you can be really severely affected or you can be, towards the lower end of the scale. So I just kind of thought, oh, well, that's not relevant to me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Okay. So, and is it possible for us to go back in time a bit to the part of what you mentioned, like that you already had a few situations going on with the UTI? Because I remember that when we met, like, I don't know if you mind me sharing, by the way,
oh, yeah,
just,
yeah.
yeah, like when we met, like you, or actually, yeah, so we also met, like, of course, during the evening workshop, but then you contacted me for a second and then you informed me a bit more. But like I'm just as well curious about, so before they said about the vaginismus part about the UTIs and but what was going on for you, if you think of your vagina and your friend and the love hate relationship itself.
Yeah. I think obviously my vaginismus was caused by honeymoon cystitis, as I've since realized. I thought there was something horribly wrong with me, like horribly wrong, because I was getting cystitis or non-bacterial UTIs every time I tried to have sex, and I think it was the fear of being in pain afterwards that made my vaginismus come to light more so. So I think the more I tried to push myself, the worse it got, and then it got to a point I was like, this is getting a bit silly. I need to do something about this because I can't really carry on going like this. So, um, but then there's part of me that wonders if I'd always had some some kind of vaginismus. Obviously, before I knew it was a thing, because I've always had a pretty, I wouldn't say a weird relationship with my vagina, but like even when I was a teenager, stuff like tampons completely freaked me out. Couldn't bear the thought of them. And I think, yeah, part of me thinks it's something that's always been there with me. So I've always had this kind of weird relationship with my vagina because but I don't know where it came from. It's just one of those things.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And the funny thing is that I wonder, do we? yeah, I don't know. This is just me thinking like, as women, like it would be so interesting to hear about, the relationship, how every woman, like what type of relationship they have with their vagina, if you think about from being a kid to an adult in a way,
Mm,
because it's like, oh, it's something to really like explore almost, because not like a man, you can't just see it, because you have to be really
yeah.
bendy to really, and have like your mirror to properly have a closer look in a way. And especially if you think about like tampons, having to insert something, like the idea of that is of course also different, because if you think about inserting something in our nose, in our ears, in our mouths, like, we're, that's our, or to me personally, if especially in my nose and my ears, my mouth's fine. Okay, this can go out of hand. Okay. But it's, yeah, so it's like I wonder about that relationship that we as a as women have, um how that grows, and how that grows, or what in what direction it sometimes can grow into, if it's like a positive or a negative. But you mentioned that you were able to have like penetrative sex,
Hmm.
itself, but then like the UTIs came. So how was your first sexual experience? I'm just curious if that's like, maybe not your first, but when you were you able to have penetrative sex in general at the time?
Yes, but in some way, I feel like it's always been painful because, like, I was um, as a teenager, I was terrified of losing my virginity because I was like, oh, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna hurt. But then at the same time, as a teenager, I was starting to be interested in boys, and I think I kind of built it up to this big, massive, life-changing event, and then it happened, and I was just like, oh, oh, well, that was fine. So,
Mm,
and I think after that, I think I built sex up as to be something so massive in my head, that it almost didn't make me scared of it, but at the same time, I think I was much more apprehensive, and I kind of feel like I wish I hadn't spent all of my teenage years worrying about it either,
mm,
because if I'd have known that the vaginismus was going to come after, I think I'd have got it out of the way much sooner. So,
mm, mm. Yeah. So because like the worry, what was the worry in what do you believe the worry was? Because you said you build it up, but what was the worry?
I think it was kind of just like I knew a lot of my friends were doing it from quite young ages actually when we were at secondary school, and it kind of felt like this secret club that everyone was a part of, and I wasn't doing it, and I was just like, well, why aren't I doing it? Like, so I think I just had this anticipation of how like amazing it was going to be, and then um, I think when it did eventually happen, I kind of felt like when I lost my virginity, I would kind of wake up a different person, and then I wake up the next day and I'm like, oh well, I'm exactly the same. So nothing had changed, and I kind of just like, oh, and as I said, I feel like I just built it up far too massively in my head, and it made me much more apprehensive because I
Mm.
thought it was supposed to be this big life changing magical experience.
Yeah, yeah. So what happened after? Because like you were able, like the life didn't necessarily change in the way as we might have
No.
thought. Um, I know what you mean though. Like when you think it feels like, I think when you're younger and when you're about to have your first sexual experience, it feels like a very adult
Hmm.
thing.
I felt
Like
like a grown up.
exactly, like, oh, I'm an extra woman now.
Yeah.
I don't know why. It's so true. There's we got a few of those things in lives where we might have that with, but what happened after? So you were able to have penetrative sex. So what happened for you?
I think the first couple of times after we first started having sex were, a little bit sore because I just lost my virginity, and obviously both of us were relatively inexperienced, and we hadn't really learnt about lube and stuff like that. And then because obviously we were new and it was new and it was exciting, we were at it like rabbits, for lack of a better term. And that's when the honeymoon cystitis and the UTI started kicking in. And after that started happening, I was just like, oh, this is not great. And I think it was when I started linking oh, well, I have sex, and then the next day, I'm in pain. Because I'd be stuck on the loo for 4 to 6 hours. And I'd set up my iPad, I'd watch Netflix. My sister might bring me a cup of tea because she knew that I couldn't do anything. I was literally stuck there. And it would get to the point I was just like, well, sex is causing this, but why is it causing it? Like, and I think I was sending myself absolutely crazy with but why, but what if, could I have done this differently? And I was spending hours upon hours again Googling stuff. I was reading forums. And I felt like I was going mad because I was just like, surely I'm not the only person in the world this is happening to. Because it just felt like I kind of felt a bit cheated because I'd obviously been building up losing my virginity for such a long time. And then just as it started getting good, it went bad. So I was just, I ended up going to the doctors. I had multiple antibiotic prescriptions, which didn't actually do anything, but because it was honeymoon cystitis, they were never actually were bacterial. It was just irritation, really.
Because could you, for anyone listening, and actually maybe even myself, really as well, like what is honeymoon cystitis? Like, what could you, if you could describe it, of what like, and this might be different per woman anyway, but for you, what did honeymoon cystitis? I'm just making words up now. Honeymoon cystitis feel like?
It feels exactly the same as a UTI, but basically it's because all of the, like, your urethra and all those nerve endings they're being like jostled about in a way that they haven't been before, and it's a move. Obviously, sex is quite a vigorous activity, and it's just that feeling they're being poked and prodded and bruised in ways that they haven't done before, and basically your nerves are just going, oh, I don't like this. And I mean, it calms down eventually. It doesn't happen to every woman. And basically it's basically just your body getting used to having sex, I think.
Okay. And what you said, like it got, it was prodded, it was like different sensations that never happened before. So what you say, the nerve endings then are extra sensitive. So but when you were then in the bathroom for like 4 to 6 hours, in a way, what was that part? Was that because you couldn't leave because you felt that you had to go?
Yeah, that was just like a classic UTI feeling, where you feel like you really need to pee and you're in so much pain, and then you pee like a tiny little drop, and then you just kind of stuck there. So that's what it was like for me, and I would be in there for a few hours at a time, and then I could just, it was really weird now when I think about it. I could just get up after about 4 hours and I could just go back about my day, but for those 4 or 6 hours I was stuck. I don't know if it was maybe my inexperience or if it was, but funny enough, I have actually recently been seeing a pelvic floor therapist, and she said to me, she's just like, you need to stop torturing yourself with but what if I'd have done this differently, but why? She was just like, it was a few years ago that happened to you. You can't change anything about it now. So she's just like, just stop worrying about what caused it and focus on moving forward now, which is, I'm just like, well, I guess.
So, yeah, because this, when you had this regular or when this happened, because how many years ago was this?
It started in 2015, and it lasted for about a year. Actually, it was about a year of really, really intense these strange UTIs after sex. Went on for about a year, and it basically ended quite abruptly with me being I was in a lot of pain from this UTI, and I ended up passing out in a Costa, which wasn't ideal, a bit embarrassing. But it kind of all seemed to settle down after that. But and then after that, that's when I started going, right, go to the doctors. This isn't this isn't right.
Yeah. So you mentioned that you went to the doctors, and then even if you had like antibiotics, that wasn't necessarily instantly like the solution, but
Mm.
it helped maybe more on the UTI side, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
not sure. So what happened then?
I went to the doctors, and through my GP, I was referred to the gynecology. I still can't say that all in one go sometimes. I was referred to gynecology, and basically after that, it started. They were just like, oh well, we'll test you. So they knocked me out. They put a camera inside my bladder to see if anything was going on in there, and there was nothing going on in there. And while they were there, they did a look at my uterus. And actually, when I woke up from that, I got to see a picture of my own uterus, my own ovaries, and I was like, that is so cool. So, like, there's not many people out there that can just be like, oh, I've seen my actual ovaries. So, in fact, he let me take a picture of it on my phone. So I've still got it somewhere. It's quite a weird thing to have knocking around your camera roll. I know. I remember just looking at it, being like, "It's so tiny." So yeah, I had that. So they had to look inside my womb. They took biopsies. It kind of felt like it was, again, I spoke recently to my pelvic floor therapist, and she deals a lot with psychology side as well. And she said that a medical professional is very good at going, these are the symptoms, what is the problem? So they will go, right, well, we'll look at this, we'll look at this. I was tested for endometriosis, and I had all sorts, and it kind of thought like to me, it kind of felt like they weren't sure. So they were like, oh, we'll just cover all of our bases. But to me, I've always felt that my vaginismus is primarily it's in my head, not in my vagina. I feel like that the issues that are in my vagina are a byproduct of what's going on in my mind. And I think I think it was the following year I had another op to remove a band of skin that was just at the entrance of my vagina. If it's like that's it there, and it's just like that bit there.
I want it. I want it.
That's no use on a podcast, is
No,
it?
no, but like I can see it at least.
Yeah.
But was this because I remember you mentioning, was it part of your hymen that you were talking about, or
Yeah,
was
kind
that
of
something
like
else?
kind of where your hymen would have been. And basically I had a band of skin that was tearing every time I was trying to have sex. I don't know if that's because I was, clenching so much that's why it was tearing.
Yeah.
But they were just like, oh well, we can remove that. So I
Because
had that done as well.
did they think that that was the part that was causing, like, what was the reason for removal?
I think I said to them that I was just like, well, whenever I try and have sex, I really, really tense up, and it causes this bit of skin to tear. And then obviously I tense up even more because I'm anticipating the bit of skin tearing, because it's obviously was always quite painful as well. And they were like, oh well, we'll just remove it then. And I was like, okay. Like I kind of just went along with it. I was just like, well, it's something. And so I had that removed. And then what it actually left me with was scar tissue that was much worse than what had been that. I kind of wish I'd just left it be, to be honest.
Okay.
And that's kind of where I am now. I've still got a bit of skin that tears if I try and have sex, but it's become a part of me now that I know it's there. I kind of don't feel like there's much I can do about it, so I'm just like, oh, it's just one of the weird little quirks of my body.
And because you mentioned at the start as well of or actually just now, about how if you think about your body and what's happening with your vagina and itself, but then also like how it then what effect it has had on you mentally, if you think about it. And where then vaginismus, when you say like, oh, that might then be in my mind, because like you mentioned about having the fear of like, oh, what if, so can you say a bit more about the what if fear that was going on for you?
I think I've always been quite a naturally anxious person as it is. I think it's just a part of my it's just a personality trait at this point. I was that child that was terrified that their mum was going to forget them to pick them up from school. And I would, last lesson of the day, I would be so tense and anxious in class because I was like, what if she doesn't come? And like, obviously, my mum, she was going to come. So, and I feel like I've always just had this anxious streak running through me, and it's translated into my vagina. And I feel like as like a what I'm always very naturally just like, well, what if everything goes wrong? I'm definitely a glass half empty kind of person. I'm trying not to be like, I'm trying to see it the other way around. Just but I think I'm just naturally a bit of an eel, so it's just me. So
Yeah. It was like, but what are the consequences of that?
Just an awful amount of time and energy wasted on worrying about things that don't need worrying about. And it's something I think with me as well is that I'm naturally quite anxious, but I'm also a perfectionist at the same time. And I thought about it the other day. I was just like, but why does everything have to be perfect all of the time? Like it doesn't. So like no one's gonna have a go if your flat's not tidy. Like you're a grown woman, so you can do what you want. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I kind of feel like those two, the anxiety and the perfectionism, kind of go hand in hand together, and probably don't work very well together either.
No. Like I think it's the writer Elizabeth Gilbert who said something like perfectionism is haute couture, no, fear in haute couture shoes.
Oh, I like that.
I might have ruined
Yeah.
the saying, but it's something like that. And it's so because it's true. Because it's not like if we're perfection, if nothing with perfectionism, nothing is going to be ever perfect. But that
No.
means that with the worrying, you're also going to either delay it or not figure it out or never do it or, wind yourself up even more. So,
Yeah.
and that makes you even more anxious, because they
Absolutely.
definitely go hand in hand in times as well. So because when you said about the relationship, because then you said about the protective side,
Hmm.
of that friend that's trying to protect you too. So if you think of like having been able to have had penetrative sex and then the pain starts, and so what is it then, if or in a way it sounds that that's the part that your vagina tried to protect you from, or
Yeah.
vaginismus tried to protect you from, like, let's shut down because
What if I get another UTI, and what if you're in pain again? That's kind of how I feel like my vagina's reacting. Even now, I mean, I've not had a UTI episode since 2016. It's now 2021, and my vagina is still being an absolute broken record. So,
Mm,
um,
mm. And is it always a broken record, or is it sometimes a broke, or like, is it always that vaginismus shows up, or is it that you found ways to, because what you said, you've learned so much, like now, because you had like already as well pelvic floor therapy,
yeah.
therapist.
I've only just started the pelvic floor therapy. So she's going to start doing some exercises with me next week, I think. But I do have ways. I think when I have sex now, it's kind of, I always know that it's going to be painful on penetration normally. Sometimes some days are okay, other days are just absolutely not. Some days I'm just like, don't even look at me. So some days, and I feel like I need to, as long as I'm in a routine with my dilating, I try and I find if I try and do it at least once a week consistently, it can it does help, and I do notice that sex doesn't hurt as much as it has done in the past. And another thing that I've been trying is massaging the scar tissue to try and loosen it up a little bit, which I think has helped. a little bit. But my problem is consistently being in the routine. Like I can do it for a few weeks and be feeling great. Like, yeah, I'm on top of the world. I've got this. I'm doing it. And then like one tiny little setback, and I won't look at my dilators for months.
Mm.
And I need to. I think I need to be a bit more consistent with myself. And
So if we like, what effect has this all had on you?
I feel like I said it to someone once, and they were like, "Oh, that's actually quite sad." So I felt like the vaginismus had kind of made me like a bit of a sexless lump, so, which isn't the nicest way to talk about yourself. I know, but I'd kind of felt like I'd I'd been. I think I said it before, like I'd been cheated a little bit out of this. I'm in my 20s. I should be, upside down off a chandelier, or I don't know if you've watched Bridgerton.
Yeah, I have
Yeah.
watched it. Yes,
Oh, it was good, wasn't it?
it is
So,
really good. Binged it all in one go.
yeah, yeah, no, same. I kind of feel like I'm I'm young now. I feel like I should. It's not that I feel like I've been robbed out of these experiences, because it's up to me to make any experience a good experience. But I kind of felt like I'd been cheated a little bit, and I was just like, I feel like I should be having the sex now that's going to keep me alive when I'm 95 in a retirement home playing Scrabble. I kind of feel like I'll need that kind of memory when I'm that age to keep me going. So
Mm.
I kind of I feel like that's the effect it's had on me. Really, I'm as I said, I am a bit of a pessimist, and I'm kind of just like, oh, why me? Like, why did this happen? But at the same time, I know it's nothing I've done. It's just is what it is. Like I can't go back in time and change anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But one thing I do wish I could go back and change is I would tell little 19-year-old me to pee after sex. That's that's what I would tell her.
Mm.
Because I didn't know that. No one ever told me, and I kind of feel that if I had known that, maybe I wouldn't have got the UTI so badly. But then again, it's another what if. I don't know. So,
Mm. Mm. So, and when you said about like you feeling like that, how did you say it? Like sexless
sexless lump.
lump. I was like, I'm sure I heard you right, but am I gonna repeat it exactly that way? It's like, so the sexist lump part of you, like
It sounds so harsh when you say
it
it.
sounds so, yeah, it sounds so hard. But also, I'm just wondering of like, because of course I know in the last maybe 6 months or so, and even maybe before, and because I also follow you on Insta, like I don't think you're sexist lump, because one of the things that in our conversations or when we were corresponding with each other, like one of the things that I saw come by was as well about like more your body image. So when you
Mhm.
think of the sexist lump part, like how did that then translate to your own body image? Like, was it just sexist lump? Hey, I'm not going to do it. Or was it literally you and your body that you're like lump? That's the lump.
Kind of a bit of both. I'd say that my body image of myself isn't ideal. I am trying to work on it, because I am in this body for the rest of my life, so I might as well like it. I can't change anything about it, and I feel like I kind of had felt like I wasn't sexy, and that I was just like, well, you can't have sex, so why would you be sexy? Like, and that's when I started doing stuff. I think round about probably 2016, I took up like pole fitness and pole dancing. I did a burlesque class. I did tap dance. Tap dancing isn't sexy actually, but it is fun.
Yeah.
And,
You can
but
make it sexy.
yeah, I mean, I couldn't, because I have no rhythm, but like, I had a good time. That's the main thing. But I kind of felt like with the burlesque and with the pole dancing, I was just like, well, if you don't feel sexy, go and do something to try and make yourself feel sexy. I kind of felt like I was trying to reclaim my sexuality, because I felt like vaginismus had stolen it a little bit, if I'm honest. And I thought, well, go and do something like pole dancing, because that's like the sexiest type of dancing there is. So go on, go give it a bash. And I actually really enjoyed it. It's been really fun. It's good. It's really good exercise, and it's so fun that you forget you're exercising. And it did start to make me feel a lot better about my body, because I was like, yeah, do you know what? My vagina doesn't work in the way that I want it to, but I can hold myself upside down with no hands on a pole. So that's also, that's no mean feat. That's quite a good thing. So
That's amazing.
I feel like I was trying to big myself up in other ways. It's become a bit of an inside joke between me and my partner that I just make all these little vain comments about myself, and he knows I'm joking, but I'm just like, oh my God, what if somebody overhears me and is just like, oh, she likes herself a bit too much.
Oh,
I'm trying to be a lot nicer to myself in the hope that like I can not trick my body into working or cooperating, but I kind of feel like I need to start, if I want to overcome the vaginismus completely, I need to start liking myself a bit more, because it's not, I feel like they go hand in hand a little bit, and I need to start being a bit more kinder to myself.
amen. And I'm
Yeah.
not even that religious. I'm not, I'm more spiritual than religious, but I'm going to say amen to that, because it's true, because you are happy to bash yourself.
Mm-hmm. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I can bash myself till the cows come home. So.
exactly. Exactly. You're happy to bash yourself, but to be kind is almost like quite of a work, it's
Yeah,
like,
it's quite strange trying to be nice to yourself. I kind of feel like I'm walking on eggshells around myself a lot of the time. I'm just like, right, do your face mask, drink your herbal tea, we're gonna have a nice time.
but,
It's just
but when you do, what happens when you do?
I feel more chill than I have done in years, and I think I'm such a tightly wound, anxious perfectionist that I find it quite difficult to take time for myself, because I will sit down on the sofa and I'll be like, well, there's a load of washing that needs to be put on, floors need to be cleaned. I'm one of those people. I'm just like, I'm not very good at sitting still, and I'm just like, but when I do force myself to do it, and then I'm just like, oh, that was quite nice. I should do that more often. So,
Yeah. And
and I've tried to.
oh,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry.
No. I was like, because I was like, and do you then do it more often?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm learning now that if that I can't run on empty, and I need to recharge myself if I want to get anywhere, really. And that's also like with the vaginismus, with the whole self-care thing. I've tried incorporating dilating into that to try and make it a part. So I'll do my face mask. I'll use up all the hot water in the boiler, a really long shower, and then I'll go and dilate. And it's much nicer than just going, oh well, I've not done it in 2 weeks. I should probably go and do that. So.
Yeah. Or what you just use, like that whole dilate self-care thing.
Yeah.
Where you're
Yeah.
actually, I'm gonna take care of myself and like have that hot shower, and actually like instead of that it becomes like a must, that there's something, a bit of more kindness around
Yeah.
trying or doing it as well, which I know is really hard, because I had it myself, that I was like, ugh. It's like, really, like, do I have to do this right now? No one's here. No, I don't need to do it right now, so I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, I'm
So
like that. I can talk myself out of anything. If I
yeah.
don't want to do something, I can talk myself out of it.
Mm. Mm. But then when you put more kindness in it, then it seems that it comes with something different, or
Yeah.
it has a bit of a different feel to it. Because I hear that it's not just about the dilating; it's about, let's put a face mask on, let's make ourselves look like that we feel good in our skin, and let's take care of ourselves and stuff. Because
Yeah.
when I was just reading back, I saw as well, even if it was from thinking about what you eat to what you do to just everything with you and your body and your mind.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to get to, really, is just like, yes, I can sit down on the sofa and eat a share pack of chocolate buttons. I can do that quite easily, but I know I'm going to feel rubbish after doing it. So I won't do it. because I just I kind of feel like I need to be kind to myself in every aspect. And like with eating well, I'm trying to, when I eat something, I want to be like, well, is this nourishing my body? Is this actually doing me any good? But I've also got like the little rule of, is it good for the soul? And sometimes you have foods that are good for the soul, but not necessarily good for your body, but they are good for the soul. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all, I'm trying to find that balance at the minute of being nice to myself. And because I think the thing is that with like the healthy eating and the exercise, that's where my little perfectionist can kick in a little bit. So I'm trying to keep that at bay and just be like, nah, get some chips if you really want some chips. Like, so I'm trying to find that balance,
Yeah. Yeah.
really.
So all like, because I hear that you've done quite a bit over the past, I want to say 4 or 5 years to try to um get a better relationship with your friend. I'll say to
Yeah.
to create more love instead of the hate in a way,
Yeah.
and where are you now? What where are you now with it? Like, where are you now in your story?
I'm feeling quite good at the minute. As I said, I've started doing the pelvic floor therapy, so I'm quite excited about that. Because I kind of wish I'd asked for that when I first marched into the doctor's office 5 years ago, instead of everything else. That I was just like, no, test me for everything. I kind of wish I'd just gone, but obviously I didn't have the knowledge back then. Um, so I'm excited about the pelvic floor therapy. I feel like that's going to be really useful, and the lady I'm seeing is lovely. Um, and she's very interested in the whole mind body connection as well. Might be a bit TMI, but like she was doing a physical examination on me the other day, and like we were just chatting about it, and she said as the conversation went on, she could feel my muscles tightening more as it went on, and she was just like, it's just so, it's like that's their state, like they just don't know how to just go, oh, relax. They're just constantly just tight. So I'm looking forward to working with her to try and not get them to be so tight, because
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's the end goal. um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, I feel like that's going to be really, really helpful for me. And obviously I've been with my my partner quite a long time, and he's great and supportive, and he's a good egg is all I can really say about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like I'm quite well equipped now to try and overcome the vaginismus in a way that I couldn't have done a year ago, because I've got the support of obviously the other girls from the coaching. Um, because it was about a year ago, I completely broke down to him about the vaginismus. I was just like, I don't know why I have this. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I cannot go the rest of my life with my vagina behaving in this way. Like, and I just remember, we just moved in together. I was in tears, and it was, I think it was by accident on Instagram that I came across the Vaginismus network. And it was a girl that I know had shared one of Hazel's infographic pictures, and I was just like, oh, that's cool, I'll click on it and see where that's from. And it was one that the Vag network had shared, and I was like, what, there's an entire network. And that's when I joined that, and that's when I found your workshop as well. And it was just completely by accident. And I think I'd had this, like, I don't want to call it a hysterical breakdown, but like, because it wasn't. I was in a bad state. I was crying my eyes out. He was doing his best. He was like patting my back, but you could tell he was just like, I don't know how to fix this. And I think it was literally within 48 hours, I'd accidentally come across the Vaginismus network, and I was just like, wow, this was just meant to be. So I kind of feel like these things appear when you need them. And I obviously, the universe had obviously just gone, oh, all right, let's give this one a break for a bit. So, and that's when I found the Vaginismus network, and I've got all this support now, and that's brilliant. That's all I ever really needed, I think, was the support of other girls that feel exactly the same way as me, because I come from quite a tiny place. I don't know of a single other person with vaginismus where I live, and where I live is so small that everyone knows everyone as well. So if anyone else, because I think there's obviously still a bit of a taboo,
Yeah,
it's not the
like
kind of thing like, "Hi, I'm Millie, I have vaginismus." Like it's just, it's not something I would just announce. And I feel like now I found the other girls from the coaching program. I've got this group of girls, and I can just call them up whenever I like and just be like, "Look, I'm feeling really rubbish about this," and they're like, "Oh, me too." And, that's in essence is what I all I ever actually needed, was that support. I feel like in the last few months I have come on in leaps and bounds, because I know I've got my partner behind me, I've got this support network behind me, I've got a decent pelvic floor therapist as well, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm fine, I'm doing good.
yeah, and you're on your way. That's how I
Yeah,
hear it.
yeah, I'm on my way.
Yeah, you're on your way, and it's so like because I just want to pick something up, but I'm going to make a bit of sound. Hold on, because I saw something somewhere. So just I know like it's not that I'm going to share very intimate details or anything. Don't worry, but I just wanted to read out something to you which you've written at the end of, or let's say November 2020. So that was maybe, if you think of like you had a bit of a year and you then came across the network, and then you had like you met the girls and you started
Mm-hmm.
looking into different things in different ways. And when we talk about like the mental and the physical part of things, and I just wanted to read out of what you've written to me. And you said, I realize I've come quite far. You're right. I realized that being hard on myself does no good for anyone. And this was definitely helped me to take steps forward. Or let me say that again. And this has definitely helped me take more steps forward than I have done before. I've spoken much more candidly to my boyfriend, and this has opened up a whole new conversation and brought us closer together. So there's so much like, oh, and this was the thing. Now, this was what I wanted to read out. It's like, I'm celebrating the respect I now have for myself. I've come to realize that you sometimes have to be your own best friend, and in
Mm-hmm.
being much kinder to my and well, I come to realize that you become okay. Let me say that one more time. Okay, I come to realize that you sometimes have to be your own best friend, and in being much kinder to yourself, I feel like I have strengthened my mind body connection, and I feel like myself a lot more. Just wanted to say that to you. Just wanted to
Yeah.
like how does that sound now? It's been a few months, but just to hear me read that back to you.
It's quite nice actually, because I feel like before Christmas I kind of had a little slump for a little bit, and then I feel like I'm back on the up again. And it's just nice hearing past me say nice things about myself. So,
Yeah.
and I do still feel exactly the same way, that I do need to I I do need to celebrate myself. Like, why shouldn't I? I'm great. I'm great. So, like, there's nothing. I'm not a horrible person. So I do. I just need to. I'm I'm just me.
You're just you. And you know what? Just I really have I feel like we're gonna go into this very like cheesy moment. Because you're
Hmm.
also coming a bit to the end, but because I know, because I follow you, I'm not your stalker, but I follow you. And there was at one point I realized how much you love singing, and there
Hmm.
was your one of your favorite songs, and then I realized, oh my God, it's also my one of my favorite songs. And this morning, when I was kind of trying to prepare and get myself into the mindset of having a bit of Millie time, I just kept on singing George Michael's version of I Can't Make You Love Me If You Don't,
Yeah.
you know. But the lyrics of that song, it's like, it's almost, if you put it together with our bodies and our vaginas, it's like, it's almost singing to us. Like, I can't make you love me if you don't. you know,
Yeah.
and I can't make your heart feel something that it won't, you know. It's like it's waiting, your body's waiting for you to love it,
Yeah. And
you know.
that's, I see that completely, that, my body hasn't done anything wrong. It's it's just my body. Like it's here to keep me alive. Keep my heart beating, keep air going in and out my lungs. That's its job and its purpose. And I don't feel like I need to treat myself a bit more kindly, because the vaginismus isn't my fault, and it's not my body's fault either. It is what it is.
And it
And
tried to protect you, what you said. If it's that
yeah,
love-hate relationship, it tried to protect you from something that it felt before,
exactly. Like
you know.
it's just a side effect of my mind, I guess.
Mm.
And I can only work on it and try and improve it. And being negative towards myself or disliking myself is not going to serve any good purpose in my life. It has no purpose being being rude to yourself. Like, you just, there's no need. So,
Oh,
and
and some
I'm actually quite chuffed with myself for coming to this point, that I've realized that, because I probably wasted a lot of time going, oh well, maybe if I was skinnier, or maybe if I'd, maybe why don't I do yoga for an hour a day and then go for a 2 mile run? Like, it's just because I can't be bothered, Audrey. Like, I don't
mm,
want to. So,
no, and
and
and when you start asking all the why, like when the why is instantly with such a dissonance feeling, you know, that
yeah,
means that we're not asking the right questions,
yeah,
you know. So
and
when you feel that and when you're like, oh, why, or maybe why am I not doing it? Because you don't want to do it.
yeah, and I feel like I shouldn't be punishing my body for something that's not its fault. So I'm just being nicer to myself because I deserve it.
You deserve it, 100%.
Yeah.
You definitely deserve it. And I think that it's you have been doing that, and you've been, like what you said, you haven't sat still. You haven't given up on your body
No.
anyway, because otherwise we would have not spoken, or we wouldn't be talking at this podcast, and you wouldn't have said that you're now doing your pelvic floor therapy as well, you know. So now that we're coming a bit to the end, like, because I feel like with everyone, I just want to keep everyone on the line and talk and talk and talk and talk as well. But if we think now, like, and if you think of um what do you know now, because that's my end question. So what do you know now that you wish you knew then? Like, what would you say?
I would, in terms of the vaginismus, I would be like, that there's support there if you know where it is and where to find it. Like, you're not on. I wasn't ever on my own about it. I felt like I was at some point, but I never was. And I feel like now I've got, as I said before, this great support network. That no, I wasn't on my own, and that's what I wish I'd known, that there was support there, and there was always support there, that I was had at the time, like support from my family or from my boyfriend. Like, it was always there, and I had no business feeling like I was on my own. So,
So what top tip do you have that you might want to share to anyone who's listening, or who might be as well in a similar situation as you? Like, what top tip do you have, you feel?
I kind of feel like it's a bit twofold. But my first is to just not give up on trying to get your answers. I've never been scared of marching into a doctor's office and be like, give just sort me out. Like, I feel like that's one of the reasons why I've probably come so far, and I feel like I need to recognize how far I've come, that I haven't ever given up on myself and trying to get the answers, and that there's no shame in, if you have to go to a doctor 5 times, do it. One of them will listen eventually, and it's it's not a you problem. It's, if a doctor's not listening, go see another one. There's hundreds of them out there. And like, my other thing as well is to, when you've got the support, is find people you can laugh about it with, because vaginismus is not funny. it's not ideal in any sense. But if you can, I always try and face my problems with a bit of humor. And I'm just like, well, if I can laugh about it, it'll go away. It's not as scary if I can laugh at it, and I can deal with it a bit easier by not making fun of it, but you know what I mean. So,
yeah.
And then the support's always there.
Yeah, it's like because I can really understand the last point what you're saying as well. Like, I think like everyone is of course on the journey, and they maybe come to that point when they can laugh at it. And like I myself, that's the reason I'm saying like I'm not for everyone, because I'm just hello, and it sounds as if vaginismus is all like a party we're all attending type of thing, which is of course not the case. But like if we can hold it lightly,
Yeah, hold it lightly. That's probably a nicer way of putting it. So that's what I think.
Yeah. And as a roundup of everything, if you can finish the following sentence for me, and maybe just come up with the first word, or say the first word that comes into your mind. So if I say to you, you are not vaginismus, but you are?
I would say I'm not vaginismus. I am strong, actually.
Yes,
that was 2 words.
Strong, actually.
Yeah, strong, yes. Actually.
Yes.
I'd say that I'm, strong.
And amazing. I feel like if I ask and ending everything saying with amazing, because it's true, because you are not vaginismus, you are strong. So I want to really, really, really thank you for sharing your story today. Because like there's so many, I feel I've had so many different questions along the way, but we will then be still talking for a few hours. But if anyone would like to reach out to you, like where can they find you?
I have a account on Instagram. It's felt cute, might dilate later. Okay. I think there's a full stop after each word. So I might just check. Yeah, there's a full stop. So it's felt cute, might dilate later. So full stop in between.
So do reach out to Millie if you have any questions, or if you just want to share and say, whoop, thanks for sharing your story. I'm sure she's happy to hear from you as well.
Yeah, but I'm always happy to chat to anyone with vaginismus, because I know how on my own I felt at points. So I'm always happy to just chat to anyone. I like chatting. Exactly. As you can tell.
No, but thank you. And I think like I'm just going to thank you for others as well, just because it's good to hear different stories, and just to see of how far you've come, and as well what you say, like you are not vaginismus, but you are strong, and that is for you and for everyone who's listening. So
yes,
thank you so much. Thank you. And I would say to everyone, I hope to speak to you soon again. This was the VME podcast, Vaginismus, Let's Name It, Not Shame It, with Audrey Cairo. Don't hesitate to reach out or to connect on Instagram on Let's Call Her V, or find all my other details on audreycairo.com. Thanks for listening.